AI to me is it's the shiny thing for executives to come and say, "Hey, we need to be using this," but it's not a strategy.
How they do use AI. And a lot of them will use it to create content, but they will say exactly what you said, which is it's a companion, it's not a replacement.
If you're not using AI, you're not doing your job right at this point. I cannot go to 16 different tools in a day. Like I don't want to do that. I don't want my team doing that. It cannot add noise.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to What Keeps Marketers Up at Night, the show where we unpack what's keeping modern CMOs, growth leads, and marketing ops folks awake, and occasionally make them laugh about it. I'm Jeff Spinella from Darwin, where we help teams turn marketing chaos into reliable systems that actually work. Today, I'm joined by Heather Dinho, Marketing Director at Viscadia. Heather leads Viscadia's marketing function, shaping the company's brand, market presence, and go-to-market strategy. She has deep experience in product marketing, customer experience, and integrated campaigns that strengthen visibility, support growth, and elevate client engagement. Heather, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jeff, for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
Of course, we're excited to have you here as well. So why don't we start with, could you fill in any gaps? Is there anything else you want to share about yourself and your experience besides what I said, if I missed anything?
Yeah, so I've been at Viscadia for just a few months, and this is a whole new chapter for me. So I really have a strong B2B tech background. So I have been on the data center maintenance and IBMI side of the business, very niche, but a really cool industry. So um, been loving that and learning something new right now in the life sciences.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, it's always fun to, I guess, shift roles, careers, and industries, whatever it may be, to round yourself out and all those things, right?
Yeah, I'm just crossing off all the letters in STEM right now, just one right after the other.
That's the way to do it, you know? You got to finish the game, right? Well, awesome. Well, I hope you're enjoying the new chapter here. And, I have to start here with the theme of our podcast, with the question we asked at the start here. So as it relates to marketing in general, your marketing role, whatever that may be, what is keeping you up at night this week?
Oh, that's a good question. Right now, I'm gonna go ahead and say it is prioritization, right? We're getting to the end of 25. I've been in my role now for about 2.5, almost 3 months. And I'm now trying to juggle this go-to marketing plan for 26. I've got a full brand and web evolution ahead of me. Within that go-to marketing plan, I'm trying to plan out all of our content, all of our webinars. I've got about 19 trade shows on my plan. I'm trying to build a whole team structure and add some new people to my team in our US office. So trying to get all of this done, prioritized, and trying to figure out how to tie this back to revenue and to scale it. That is really what's keeping me up at night. And how am I all going to get it done so that when I come back to work on January 2nd, I feel empowered and ready to go.
Wow. That sounds like a lot.
I'm not
I
sleeping.
wish I could, I can see you're not. Yes. I have to ask you, with all those things that you have going on, uh, do you have other folks helping you out? Is it just you? What's the size of the team, or it's just the Heather show?
It's right now it's kind of the Heather show. It is starting that way. I am building my team. So I have 2 designers, but I am
Hmm.
currently also hiring for just a marketing specialist here in our Arlington office. And then I'm going to get a brand experience coordinator role out soon too, just to help us really round out. But right now it's just me. I probably, when we're done recording, I will be sending an email to my CEO saying, "Can we get some better project management software? Because I need to duplicate myself a little bit here."
Wow. Yeah, I can imagine. Well, if you're on the lookout for a role like that, keep a look at Viscadia's website, or I'm not going to say reach out to Heather. Don't bother her. She's got enough on her plate. But keep an eye on the site here for those roles, and that's a lot to summon here with the holidays coming up. I wish you luck, and I gotta maybe pull on one thread if I can from what you said there before I get to the next question. You mentioned, and it's a theme that everyone has to deal with in marketing, tying it back to revenue. Uh, how do you approach that? How do we think? How have you maybe done that in the past? Do you have any thoughts about? Because I know you're new in this role, so I don't want to. It's still being figured out. But how have you done that in the past, or how do you think about your?
Well, I mean, I think I've been at large companies, I've been at small companies, right? I have to just always remind companies, like, no matter how big you are, you're still not Coca-Cola. Like, we don't have a brand spend. So I really need to say, all right, we're going to these trade shows. And you're like, well, it's going to take 2 years. Let me see your pipeline. What is in the
Mhm.
CRM? What are we looking at? Are we even using the CRM? Those are like my biggest battles that I'm constantly facing is like, I I can do the best campaigns, I can put everything out there, but if I'm not getting everyone back and trying to make something actionable and show me that they're working these opportunities, um, I can't prove the ROI. And then I have to be the bad guy that comes in and says, "All right, guys, we're gonna cut trade shows next year because we didn't make any money off of them," and that's then I'm like the least popular person in the organization.
Yeah, I can imagine, and it's so tough, yeah, because there's that long tail of everything, right? And especially if you're selling SaaS or something like that, and not a $10 product, the sales cycle is so long, right? And then you have to build that brand awareness. So I feel like that's something that talking to some other folks and what I've seen as well is you got to set those expectations internally, especially with those people you report to. But I hope that you know the trade shows don't go because I know that's a big part of getting out there and talking to people, right?
It is. It is absolutely. And it's a big thing for us, but again, it just comes down to people utilizing it and just putting in what's in your pipeline, and letting us also nurture that too. I think that's something that, once someone has like, and I've worked with a lot of smaller companies too. It's like, oh no, I'm talking to them. That's okay. We can still get a message out to them too. If this is taking 2 years, it doesn't have to be all on you. Let's work together. Sales is marketing and marketing is sales. Please.
Yeah, that's the whole thing that a lot of people. Oh gosh, I hate it when people think they're separate. You need to be in lockstep with sales or marketing, vice versa. There's not a battle. There's not a competition. We're on the same team. And yes, sometimes those nurturing campaigns take time. So I hope that people, who struggle with this can do their best and explain to people in the organization that these things take time and you need to set, the right expectations with the people you report to because it is a little bit tricky to tie that back to, but marketing is so important. It is the top of the funnel. Um,
Yes.
and I don't want to beat that to death because that's always the most painful thing. I want to talk a little bit about uh, what everyone is sort of talking about in the past couple of years and certainly the past 6 months and less of AI tools, AI for marketing. I'm curious to know how, if at all, you use any AI tools, what you use, how you use it. What are your thoughts on that from a marketing perspective, of course?
Yeah. I've been very clear with my team. If you're not using AI, you're not doing your job right at this point. GPT is my strategic partner, hands down. It is $20 a month. It is, why are we not paying for it, right? Like, all of us marketers, we're all getting our coffee. We're all spending at least $25 on coffee a week. Make it one day at home, and now you can just duplicate yourself a little bit, right? So, I mean, I use this for strategic messaging, segmentation, competitive analysis, sometimes just turning like the mess that's in my head into something structured. Um, and to be completely honest with you, on the human side, it rewrites my rage emails. I mean, that's a big thing. It's like, make this sound professional. And just being able to just get a polished version of me out. Like, I ChatGPT deserves a raise. Let's put it that way. That is probably my number one favorite tool, but I think HubSpot is doing some really great things. I think Canva is doing some really great things. I just got a new app that I've been trying around this month. It's called Voice Notes. I mean, this thing is it's an assistant in my pocket. I can go in, I can record a meeting. I'm no longer sitting there like scribbling down, frantically missing the meeting because I'm trying to get everything done. I come back, I read through it, and then I'm like, oh, now create me a to do list. And I get all of the action items on it. And so far, it hasn't missed. So, like, this one is one of my absolute favorites.
Voice note is what's called, right? We'll put the link in there for folks out there. I had not used that one. But yeah, I can't tell you how valuable it is to have some sort of tool that's recording a meeting. Uh, assuming your organization lets you do that, just to
Yeah.
pay attention, right? To focus, to be engaged in the conversation, right?
And I'll even go into meetings and I'll say like, "Hey, do you mind if I record this?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah.
Or if the one time someone sets up a Teams meeting and it doesn't have the transcript, I've been guilty to leave voice notes running, like while I'll run out of the office for a little bit so it can at least give me the
Oh,
transcript of the recorded Teams meeting. Just being able to go back and have that is huge, huge.
Yeah, and you can always with plausible deniability say you forgot. I don't recommend that. This is not legal advice, but these things happen, and if it makes your life easier, just do what you have to do here with
It does, and
the legal
to be fair,
confines.
I did look up, I know it varies state by state, so I looked up in Virginia, where I currently am at, only one person has to be consenting to the recording.
Well,
So, right, that's me. But I always ask, like, "Hey, do you mind if I record this
yeah,
meeting?" And
yeah,
it's just so helpful, and it's efficiencies.
it
Um,
really is. It's so much saved time, and I have terrible handwriting. I'm with you because I used to scribble notes, and it was to get the information, but when I was young in my career, I feel like I did it a little bit as almost some signaling that I'm interested and I'm trying to show that I care, and which is not the best way, the virtue signaling approach or whatever you want to call it. Maybe that's not the right term, but you're really not engaged. You're not getting everything. And if you have bad handwriting like me, you're going to miss some nuances, and there's no excuse for not using some sort of an AI if you can.
no, and at this point, the things that are $20 a month or $100 a year, they're gonna pay for themselves tenfold,
Yeah.
by the time you're done using it and the time that you're gonna get back.
Right. And most companies will probably pay for them anyways. But if you're in the tech space, almost certainly they will. So it's if you're worried about that $20 a month, yeah, just
My
use it.
only thing is if you're using ChatGPT, 'cause I'm gonna call my husband out on this one because he uses it too, and he sent me, like, a
Okay.
beautiful note one day, and I was like, "Well, you didn't write
Oh
that."
boy.
So it is one of those things, if you use it, it is a tool, like, read through it, make sure it sounds like you, don't take it as verbatim.
Agreed. Agreed. And if I can touch on something that we at Darwin have done, we've had a bunch of conversations over the past 6 months, and I mentioned this previous podcast with marketers to ask how they do use AI, and a lot of them will use it to create content, but they will say exactly what you said, which is it's a companion, it's not a replacement. And you can usually tell some people, a lot of people, if it's AI written, best to maybe get a first draft that, and I do the same thing like you do with emails. I'll have it rewrite something for me, and then I'll tweak a couple things here or there. The obvious M dashes they'd love to throw in there, get rid of those, just to make sure it reads a little more.
I will say that though, the one thing I hate is, like, I was probably the biggest M dash user, and then ChatGPT came out, so it has
Me
now
too.
made me actually it's made my grammar better because I kinda don't wanna use the M dash anymore, so people actually think it's really me.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's very good point. I did the same thing too, and now I'm not using colons so much, but or semicolons, I should say. But yeah, it makes you think about how to structure words in different ways, and just making it so direct, and it's like two different clauses with a dash in the middle. It's easier to do that.
It
Uh,
is.
yeah, well, yeah, I gotta say I use the same tools here, except the voice note one. I'll have to check that out. So everybody else highly recommended, right?
Yes.
And we have. I wanted to sort of then transition this over to the next question here, which is related to martech tools, and there are, as far as my team has told me, and I've seen this in anywhere 10, 11,000 or more different tools you can use out there to do tracking, do personalization on your website, to make sure your content, your user journeys, or something like Pendo, which can do user journey mapping. Things like that. I'm curious, um, with a limited budget or whatever budget you have, there's so many tools out there. How have you decided, maybe your current role or previous role, what tools are worth using? Which ones are best for you? What do you think are the most important ones? We don't have to get too detailed on that, but just what's your thought process and how you approach where you allocate money and budget on things like these?
Okay. Yeah, that's the first one. Right? ROI, but it doesn't necessarily have to ROI back to the
Okay.
business. ROI on time, efficiencies, like it has to either drive revenue, save time, create efficiencies. It's got to show me that it's working for me, not just with me. So that is a big one for any, martech tool. Another one is, and this is probably my biggest one. This is one of my pet peeves, but it has to have adoption and accountability so that if the team cannot use it constantly, it's out. I don't wanna hear, "Oh, what'd be really great is if we had this. We have it. Why aren't you using it?" Or, I was in an organization before where we were using this really sophisticated, amazing tool, and then you talk to sales, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, we're not using that. Can you give us another demo on it? Can you give us another demo on it?" And it was like, it was killing me to see just one of our intent strategists to constantly be working with sales on it because sales just didn't want to take the accountability for it. So that's a big one. Like if you can't get your organization on it, go find something else because it's not working. And the number three is consolidation. Um, it's got to replace, especially when you're trying to be small and nimble and scale. It's got to replace multiple tools. Like I cannot go to 16 different tools in a day. Like I don't want to do that. I don't want my team doing that. It's gotta it cannot add noise. That's just the bottom line. Um, so really it's not having the biggest stack, it's just a real clean and aligned one.
I love that. Yeah, that's such a great way of thinking about it because some folks that I've spoken to in my career, they, oh, I need a million different measurements of a million different things. And great, but it's taking you so much time to go through this. It's not like you said consolidated. It's coming from different places, and how do you connect these measurements to each other in an efficient way where you can tell a story you need to tell or get the information you need? Um, so I love that. Yeah, it just sometimes less is more, right? Or at least something that covers more is worth than something separate.
Yeah, and I think, with some of those really great tools that we're getting out there now, as long as they seamlessly integrate with each other, they connect. They don't build on and they're not creating like, all right, let's put this extension on the house here and then let's put this one on here and then these don't talk. It's you have to have a real clean system.
I love it. Yeah, and I'm probably clean process of how often you look at this data and which way what your intent is, what you're looking for. Mm. No, that's great because I can't tell you how many teams we work with here at Darwin. We work with marketing teams and do the whole gamut of everything. And it's just, we have all these different integrations and they all do all these different things. I mean, how many times have we had to restructure the way that these strips fire just so your site can actually load in a decently fast time because you got so much bloat on the site? And so there's a lot of second and third order consequences too that people just don't even think
The more you integrate with some of these tools, like one thing goes down on one side and you're like, how do I get out of this now? I've got
of.
so many dependencies. So I like to keep it just tight and clean and just, all right, here we go. This is all we got here. We're running lean, but it's fine. It's
Yeah,
fixing itself.
we know what our goals are. This is what's going to help us understand it better.
Yes.
Let's not just throw things for the sake of throwing things. Makes perfect sense to me. And so if we could shift gears a little bit here, we have a segment here we like to call it Hot Topic of the Week. I wanted to ask your opinion on something, and I'm going to give a little bit of the reading here of what happened here with Google Analytics over the past couple weeks. So I think it was November 5th. It's a little tactical here, so if you don't understand this, feel free to look it up on the side. But on November 5th, Google Analytics overhauled its user-provided data (UPD) infrastructure, repurposing UPD solely for advertising conversion measurement, e.g., enhanced conversions and customer match, and it stripped it from session and user attribution identity functions. So under new architecture, first-party customer identifiers like emails, phone numbers are hashed before transmission, and they're matched with consenting Google account data to reconstruct conversion events. It's supposed to make things a little bit better to see how your ad spend is doing. A little complicated here, but it does change some of your metrics. I'm curious to hear if you have an opinion on this at all, if this affects anything you're looking at. Yeah, just your overall thoughts.
Yeah. So for me, all right, I'm going to frame this out now that I am not, very technical on this, right? But I think there's two perspectives here. So it strengthens how, they can actually measure, whether an ad actually led to a real customer action. Okay, that's great. Um, and it's good for, attribution and smarter spend decisions. So I see that, right? But that's not necessarily how I'm using it right now. So for me, this also means that I'm going to get potentially less visibility into the full customer journey. I'm really interested right now on like using Google Analytics to see where everyone's going on my site. Where are they converting? Where are they popping into? Where are they leaving? Especially in a time right now where I'm rebuilding a website, and trying to prioritize which pages stay, which ones go, which ones we want to do first. So this keeps me a little bit of nervousness, but I do see that, it is part of the bigger industry shift. Sometimes I feel that Google just keeps moving the field posts on us. Like just when we get comfortable, they're like, gotcha, we're
Always.
going to do this now. So that could be frustrating. But I'm not in it so much on the day to day that, I can make a very technical statement on this. But um, they're just accelerating, probably a greater industry shift here.
Yeah, I hear you. And yeah, I mean, everybody has their own goals and they want to use the data too. So I love that you called that out, and that that's not exactly what is mattering to me right now. And there are folks out there who might not be you doing Google Ads or running ad campaigns like that. Maybe they're doing something else. So it's just interesting to get your perspective on that, because it's a little bit of a tweak that maybe is not such a big deal. Maybe a lot of people don't notice, but it can have a difference on someone like you who doesn't necessarily care about things like that, and it's affecting your data. Though.
Yeah, so for me right now is like I'm pulling in customers, everything's really fully organic, so it's not the biggest
Mhm.
deal yet.
Mm. Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
in the second half of the year, once my brand new website's up and we're really running a lot more ads, I may have very different feelings on this. So,
I hear you. We'll have to circle back then, or follow you on LinkedIn or elsewhere to see see posts about it. But apologies for the wonky question,
no, no
but I'm
worries.
always wanted your opinion here, because I know certainly enough about what's going on here on this. If you don't understand a little bit about how Google Analytics works and all the attribution aspects here, do a little more digging. That's probably something that as a marketer you should, to the audience out there, should know a little bit more about, just to get yourself well rounded, even if you don't work in that space specifically.
Yeah.
Now, shifting gears one more time here, we have a bunch of different segments, as I mentioned,
Mm.
so I want to make sure we hit them all. Uh, our nightmare story segment. This is the scary one. It's about a month late because it's not Halloween anymore, but we'll do it all year round. Why not? I wanted to hear a little bit about your worst campaign or system failure or anything that you've dealt with in your career. Uh, could be marketing or otherwise. What's the nightmare story? Because I think this helps people realize that it's not the end of the world when these situations happen, and we've all gone through something this bad.
Yeah. Oh. I think if I was even to ask one of my previous teammates, I'd be like, "Why would this be the VTL campaign?" So we had done a previous campaign, and one of our heads of products is like nicest person you'll ever meet, like super smart. Was like, "I've got this really great idea," and we're like, "All right, go." And he's like, "We should do a webinar targeting our customers for this product." And we're like, "Yes, absolutely." That was the highlight of the campaign. It went downhill from there, and it went downhill fast. Um, so to make a long story short, it pretty much was only brought to marketing. So we're like, "Yes, we're gonna go promote this." Now we're on internal company webinars, and we're talking about it, and the sales team is, like, sitting back like, "What? What is that? What are you doing?" Um, Come to find out that product never went to sales. So there was no sales enablement, there was no coaching, no one knew who was selling it. The people that were trying to sell it to their customers were actually not the people that were gonna sell it and implement it. The technical side of the business was not told about that, so they didn't even have the capabilities to go and install this in all these customers' machines. Um, it gets worse. The equipment list that we received did not match anything in our CRM instance, so the data was inconsistent, the targeting was wrong, could not trust the segments. So what do you think happened there? Um, Overall, story was sales never shared it with their customers, so it was a full marketing invite, but our targeting was wrong. Our pool went from this huge number, and like we were, I would confidently say in previous organizations, I've got a really good handle on how to do webinars and do them right. The results were abysmal. There was, like, almost little to no attendance. It was just so bad, and now this has have it's now driving me to say, "Hey, we're gonna do this. Let's get all hands from, like, leadership across the board. Hey, sales, do you know about this? Product, do you know about this? Um, Technical and service delivery, do you know about this? No? Okay, let's get us on board." And thank God for that because I went to go do another campaign on the other side of the house, and would you believe that no one had talked to each other again? So it is now my like the lesson from this, like, because it was, I will say this was like egg on my face for sure. Like, how did you guys go and do this? And like too, I was just starting with a new team, and they're like, "Heather, come," and I'm like, "I did none of us saw this coming." And we'll all still say it was, like, the worst campaign that we've ever been a part of, and if you bring it up, we all just you see the tension, all of our shoulders, and like, "Oh, no, not again." But we've also used it as a benchmark, like, "Let's make sure we don't do this again. Let's make sure we don't do the VTL campaign over again." So that is probably the worst, and it was just a really big corporate miscommunication.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, there's so many lessons to pull from that. It's just communication, folks. Right? Cascading communications are so important. Let's not be siloed in our different voices, because it's a waste of money. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of budget spend for campaigns, people's time.
And if I told you how many people were had at least one sort of touch point on that campaign, that was one of those where I was like, "Should I just pack up my office now?"
Oh no, I've been there. I've been there with you before. And if you're listening to this, oh geez, if you're listening to this and you have felt that way, you're not alone. It's happened to a lot of people throughout their career. But I think the great point you made too is that you learn from these things, and you learn that well, this next one we cannot do this. We have to have less siloed communication, and therefore you avoided the potential next catastrophe in the next campaign, which
Right.
just proves, the bad things can sometimes lead to good things because you learn from them. You learn not to make the mistake again. We're all junior at some points in our career, so
And you know what? You can even make those mistakes. So this was probably only 3, 4 years ago. I mean, it was like,
yeah.
but there was so many people with so many hands on it, and no one thought, "Hey, does sales know about this?" Like,
Yeah. No, and that's a great point too. You don't have to be junior. You could be a new at a company too. You just don't know how the communication works. Or you could be in a company where, for whatever reason, and I don't agree with this approach, everything is very much siloed and kept to within each department. Um, and that's a whole other discussion on a whole other podcast about how you approach, trying to change culture internally. But no, that sounds scary. I'm glad that you've gotten past, and the team hopefully got past it. And It's just a good reminder to everyone. Everything connects to everything is at the tip of that spear, marketing or sales, whatever it may be. Yeah, we need this communication. So thank you for sharing that. And yeah, I think we got maybe a little bit more time for a couple more questions. So I do want to loving what we're hearing here. I wanted to learn a little bit. I think two more maybe here. Because we have these same questions we like to ask everybody on every podcast. And the next one is the Fix It Fast segment. You mentioned you're working on a new website, trying to figure out what's staying, what's going. So it might not be in relation to this, but I like to ask folks, and I would definitely want to get your opinion on this. Could be a marketing perspective, marketing stack, a tech stack for a website, your personal project management stack, of different tools, systems, whatever it might be. If you could rebuild it, right? And you can choose any of those. And I only mentioned the website because it might be freshest. What would you have that stack look like? These are my systems or tools or platforms that I would use in an ideal situation, starting from scratch.
okay, so I am there right now, which is kind of cool. So right now I've stripped everything away, and I'm like, what does the data look like? What does it need to be? Who needs to touch it? What do I need to measure? And what decisions do I have to make? And now I'm picking the tools from there. Um, for CRM right now, because it's scalable. And first off, that is a really like, okay, I'm gonna go back on this one real quick, but like everything that I like to do has to have scale. I don't want to build for now. I need to build for the future. Building for now just creates more of that. All right, we'll put another extension on the house, right? So right now, and I think for the next few years, the company map HubSpot makes sense. It's a great CRM. Depending on the size of your organization, sometimes that may be HubSpot and Salesforce or Marketo and Salesforce, depending on those needs. But really hone in on what CRM you really need. Like that is the foundation of everything. And then where does that plug into? The website right now, I've seen people move off and on to different platforms, different CMSs. I'm growing WordPress because that's going to talk to things. I know that I can jump in there tomorrow, and if something were to happen and we have a fire sale and I need to go change a few things on the homepage, I can do it myself. I don't necessarily have to say like, "Oh, let me go get so and so to do it." I think that's it, is like building something that I can measure, I know who owns it, I know how to use it. I'm not going to put anything in my tech stack that I don't know how to use. Even though if I may not be in there daily, I want to make sure that it's simple. And that I think, when you tie it back is one source of truth. Um, one CRM, one analytics foundation, one website, one campaign framework. So just keeping everything very simple. Just, I will this is one of my mottos, but fragmentation kills efficiency. Alignment multiplies impact. Yes.
I love that. I
So
love
that
that. That's
is
fantastic.
building
Eh,
on, everything has to, I think I said that too, before. It's just, I'm a builder. I like to
well,
look at like things like Legos almost, like how do we put these together but make them seamless?
yeah. Well, and I think is wonderful the way you laid that out too, because I can see that from your just the way you started that answer. It's like you started in the end. This is what I need. These are my goals. Let me figure out what I really need, and then I can find the tool, platform, whatever it may be, to solution that for me. And then, of course, the CRM. Everybody, if you're a marketer, you should be using one. If you're not, I mean, then they're it's not just for keeping people's names and addresses or whatever it is. There's so many other functionalities behind there, and you can get much more than beefed up through something like Salesforce, which is as many bells and whistles as you want. There are other tools like HubSpot, which is fantastic, and give you more than what you probably need. A lot of folks as well. And yeah, obviously WordPress. I totally agree with you. I don't. We are CMS agnostic here at Darwin, but we've heard the same thing. I've heard something from recently from a client of ours or excuse me, a potential client of ours, and we'll probably start working with them in the future, who is on Webflow. And they stressed to me, I hate Webflow. We can't do anything with it. It's too complicated. And it's not that it's super complicated. I think it's just so restrictive that it doesn't give you that flexibility that WordPress does to create new visuals, new page templates, um, you know, inserting an image here and make it very dynamic. So every tool serves a purpose in its own way, and Webflow is great for other companies who maybe want a very tight design system and they don't want to give much flexibility to change anything on their site. And it's not necessarily the one's better than the other, but I love that too, because I kind of agree with you. I like WordPress. It's fun. It's easy. It's not, it's open source. It plugs in with everything. If you're worried about security, there are ways to get around that, to make it tighter. Uh, no, I
I
love that stack. And
I have no plans to hire just a web designer, right? If my team was
yeah,
much bigger, sure, I could look outside
yeah,
that, but I can't right now. So when you're trying to be nimble, like for me, WordPress is it.
yeah. I love it. I love it. Well, I agree with you on that. For especially for exactly what you need to do right now. And so moving then to our last official question here, the hill to die on, we're calling it a segment.
Mm.
There's a lot of agreements in the marketing community amongst many different principles and ideas and approaches to how things are done. And we just talked about having a CRM and using everything as a unified source of truth, or using a single source of truth. And I think a lot of people would agree with that approach. Um, However, a lot of people are sometimes, disagree with certain other things that are widely accepted. And I'm curious to know what your most unpopular marketing opinion is, if you have one.
You don't need a trendy strategy. You need a clear one, right? So everyone is chasing the shiny thing. And right now, the shiny thing is AI, 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 right? So I'll have people like, Heather, we need to be talking about AI on the website. Okay. What do we do with AI? Oh,
Yep.
oh, you don't know. Oh, you don't know. Or hey, are we using AI? Well, what do you want to be using it for the campaigns? Like AI to me is it's the shiny thing for executives to come and say, hey, we need to be using this, but it's not a strategy. It's part of the strategy and it's part of what builds it, but you need to know, the basics, your ideal customer profile, consistent messaging, clear positioning, strong creative, clean data, sales, marketing, alignment, sales enablement. Like that's it. That's the clear strategy. It's not flashy, but it's scalable. Um, and for some, if you want to be flashy, but be consistent. It's like if that is your goal and you're like, all right, but I have to use the shiny thing. Okay, but just know that you're going to be in a constant churn and burn. And if that's fine, you want to be consistent with it, great. But that is the one hill to die on. And then the other it really is like, please tell me you know what you want to do with AI before just telling me to put it on the website.
It's like the blockchain from a few years ago too, right? Everybody was going to do something new with that. And yeah, I'm with you. You see it everywhere. There's the whole
We
joke about, we'll put
We need to
it's
be
like,
using more AI. And I'm like, we are. What do you mean we're not? We're using Canva, we're using HubSpot, we're using ChatGPT, we've got Claude, we're using Gemini. We've got more AI than we know what to do with. How is the business using AI to scale? And that's what the message that we can use. But we just can't say that we use AI because that is just it's like,
yeah,
well,
you have to come up why and how, right? You got to give me something instead of just saying, let's slap an AI onto this, which was, I think, the old joke. If we put a .ai in as your domain name, you 10x is the value of your company just because you put AI. No, it doesn't quite work that way. It shouldn't. Yeah. Well, there's the fundamentals, right? And don't chase the flashy thing because a lot of people they want to do that, and it's the quick wins. Everybody wants a quick win. Everybody wants to do the least amount of work for the most amount of return. Uh, and that's not going to do it, right? It's the consistency, so growing the brand over time and really doing what you're good at. I feel like.
Yeah, and,
Also,
if you wanna have your overarching campaign and that's your clear strategy, fine, and if you wanna make one of the pillars underneath it, the flashy, shiny, trendy thing, that's it, but it has to be a pillar, it cannot be the overarching.
mm,
It's gotta be
like
one of.
one of the services or whatever one of
Yeah.
the products you offer. Yeah. Well, I think that's a very sobering thing to think about as was AI because yeah, everyone's embracing it, everyone's talking about it, but it's not the end all be all, and a lot of other pieces of the puzzle, the classic fundamentals of marketing, not going away. So I couldn't agree with you more on that. And yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, Heather, for joining us here today. Uh, Before we wrap up, are there any final thoughts you have? Anything else you want to share with the folks out there before we do sign off?
No, I think we're in a good spot, this was so much fun, I'm so glad to be here. Um, you know, I think maybe I'll wrap up and say, right, we've talked about mistakes, we've talked about, marketing opinions and strategies. At the end of the day, we're marketers and we should really just have fun with it. Like our number one job is to test and repeat. And to keep doing that. Like, let's not get lost in oh, we've always done it this way, let's have fun with our jobs and go back to being just classical marketers again because it's fun. It is so fun. Like that's why we got into it because we loved it and we enjoyed it. So, you know, when you see it go back to the basics, it sounds like, oh no, there's a lot of fun in the basics.
Absolutely. Well, I love that a positive way of looking at it too. It's the old adage: if you'll never work a day in your life if you love what you're doing. Marketers, it's a fantastic, fun thing to do. Marketing. So, thank you so much again, Heather Dinho, Viscadia marketing director. It's been a pleasure having you here, and you've been listening to What Keeps Marketers Up at Night, brought to you by Darwin, the team that helps CMOs finally trust their data and sleep a little better. Subscribe, share, and get some rest. You've earned it. Thank you again, Heather.